Hello, everybody. It's so great to have you here today. I'm Kathy Hartnett, the Executive Director of Global Recovery Initiatives Foundation, and I'm excited to have you all get to hear and learn about some of our certified employers. But the first thing we want to show you is the new certification seal. We finally have it announced, and it's been delivered to all 15 of our certified employers, and we have opened application process. And so we have a whole lineup of companies and employers that are coming to us right now for certification. So we're very excited. So now you get to see the seal. Today we're going to talk about, we're going to learn from some of our certified companies about what they do and how their programs work. And we look forward to your questions. Eliza, who has been our state engagement director, but is really now our program director, because she's working on all sides of everything that the Institute is doing, is going to lead our panelists today. So Eliza, I also want to encourage you all to go to the our Institute Fund website, because it's just been updated. So we've got some new stuff on there to share with you. You'll get to see who all the companies are that we've certified and some other new information. So Eliza, take it away.
Thank you, Kathy. Like she said, I'm Eliza Zarka, and I'm really grateful that we have so many people here with us today. You can feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat just so you all can kind of understand who's attending these. We feel strongly about offering connection. So if there's someone you want to connect with and you're like, oh, I think they're from the same state as me, that is what the chat function will be for. We ask that you put any of your questions in the Q&A box so that how this will operate is that our three nationally certified businesses will each give an introduction and kind of a layout of what they're doing to be recovery friendly. I'll ask them a few guiding questions based on what you all have put together in the questions ahead of time. And then after we wrap that, we'll go to the Q&A box and address any live questions that you may have. Depending on your preference, we'll ask you to come off mute and on camera if you want to ask it live time. If you prefer that it's just something that I read and then the panelists answer, that's totally fine as well. So next thing is that I'm introducing Abigail Flynn with Olympia Hospitality, who will tell you about her business and how they're recovery friendly.
Thanks, Eliza and Kathy. I'm happy to be here with everybody today for the opportunity to share a little bit about what we're doing. As Eliza mentioned, my name's Abigail Flynn. I am the Senior Human Resources Manager for Olympia Hospitality. A little bit about who we are. We're a hotel management company. We have 42 locations, including hotels, resorts, and restaurants from coast to coast. We've been around, we're a family-owned company. We've been around for 56 years, and our home office is based out of Portland, Maine, which is where I am located. So one of the things, for the scope of our organization as well, we have just over 1,800 employees now throughout our various locations. For me, one of the things that keeps me with this company and that I love the most is that, and kind of why we're in this space right now, is that we're really proud to be a values-driven organization. And those values that we have, where people are our priority. And so we live in that value space, and they're part of all of our conversations. So on the next slide, what I have, just to kind of go over are our values, which first being trust, accountability, fun, continuous improvement, and concern for others. Really, concern for others is why we're here. That's the space that we're in, and always as a company looking for ways that we can improve the offerings for our team member base. People are really at the heart of our business and hospitality, creating a culture where employees feel supported, respected, and empowered has always been a core priority. I've been with the company for 21 years, so I can say that these values definitely aren't just not something that are written on a wall. They are how we lead. They lead our discussions, and they lead how we respond to the field and what we expect of our team members as well. So a little bit about what we're doing in the recovery-friendly space. We are in the earlier stages of it. This conversation really came about last year, I believe in April. one of our director of sales for our company brought to our attention. She's has been open about her recovery and advocating for those in the recovery space and additional support. And so she brought an opportunity to our attention to partner with a company called Sobrinth, which is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week peer support line that is complimentary for our team members and family members. So really what that looks like is we have a toll-free line. We can also email them, and employees who are looking for support themselves, resources that they might need. If they have a friend or family member they're trying to help as well, or even, myself, I've used the line to try to find resources for a team member in need. And when I heard about this when it was brought to my attention about, hey, what do you think about this? And the conversations were initially coming on. I recalled a time. Now I'm in the human resources world, but most of my time with the company has been in the actual hotel field, and in particular in the general manager space. And during COVID, things got pretty challenging. We had a lot of substance use was a huge issue, both in the public and in our employee base, mental health in general. And I particularly had several employees, but one that I remember specifically that came to me asking for help. She was struggling with alcohol use. She was in a very desperate place in her life. And she asked me to help her get into rehab, detox and then rehab. And I went through those steps to find it. And I honestly, at the time, I found the process very challenging and very frustrating. It was very hard to find resources, find space for her. It took a lot of phone calls. I had to, physically take her to the facility. There were not a lot of options at that. And I felt very fortunate to be able to have the aptitude and the time to be able to invest in that. But I know for our, the vast majority of our field, that's not always possible. And to have a complimentary line for us to be able to call to say, hey, this has landed on my plate and I don't know what to do with it. Help me find some resources. Most recently, they helped one of our general managers get one of their employees into an outpatient rehab facility. So it really is an extra arm of support for us that really kicked off our recovery-friendly initiative. During that process, the way we rolled it out to our team member base, we actually had kind of an executive sponsor really send out a series of emails. That was our VP of onboarding and special projects. And he shared his own journey with sobriety with the field. We had somebody high up in the organization that was willing to step up and say, this has been my sober journey, to really, I think, cultivate some sort of just some trust and some understanding that says, hey, it is okay to talk about these issues. It's okay to have these issues, and we're here to help. So we launched some emails. We launched the Sobrinth program. Shortly after that, we created Olympia Cares, which is our community for awareness, recovery, empowerment, and sobriety. It's a peer support network amongst our team member base where it really fosters dialogue, connection, and education around recovery and sobriety. So we meet monthly. It's like a sober support network group. We've had a series of guest speakers come on, team members. We've had from our VP of openings to myself, to a director of marketing, our director of sales, and even a team member that's come up through the entry-level positions has come on and shared their journey with us as well. So it's an opportunity just to share a little bit about who we are, where we are in the space. The group is not just for those that are sober. We really try to also bring in sober allies, people that are either, curious about their own journey or curious in ways to help people. So it's a collective experience for all. We launched a Facebook group that's private for our employees that we house resources there. So information on Sobrinth, local resources to the geographical areas we are in. And just, that I try to post in there weekly, just some check-ins, share helpful tidbits, and other resources that I'm learning of in this, process of exploration so that our team members have access to information. And it's gone pretty well so far. We have some decent participation in there, and it's an ever-evolving process. And then lastly, one of the things that we're doing is really now starting to draft new policies surrounding what does it mean to be recovery friendly? What does that look like for us? The goal is to, help managers and team members recognize signs of distress, really reduce stigma in the workplace and introduce language that is helpful in addressing the issues, and then provide clear steps and resources for employees who need support. So that's a little bit about where we're at in the recovery space. Why does it matter? Especially in hospitality, why are we in there? I've been in the business my whole life, 21 years with this company. The hospitality industry is a high stress, high turnover environment that often comes with increased risks. Substance use disorder is more prevalent in hospitality than nearly any other industry, according to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Roughly 17% of hospitality workers report substance use disorder, which is nearly double the national average across all industries. As a little bit of personal data, we recently surveyed our team member base to get some further insight on what we are looking, what they're looking for out of this program, how can we best serve them? And we asked some poignant questions about, who has been affected. And 12% of our employee base that responded reported being in active recovery. So of our responders, 12% have said, I am in recovery. I have had have trouble in this area. 50% of our responders said that they know someone in active addiction right now. That was a huge number for me. If there's ever any reason to say, okay, well, why are we doing this? 50% of our team members are struggling with, are struggling with somebody that's in active addiction. And then 50% also said that they had a friend or a family member in recovery. And I think when you're in the people business, you have to understand that those 50% of people can't just shut off when they walk through the doors that they're struggling with a friend or a family member that's in active addiction. They can't just compartmentalize that and pack that away. That stays with them. And I want to make sure, our organization wants to make sure that we are providing resources for people to help them as a whole individual versus just who they are when they're in our doors working. Other things that really affect, us in the industry: long hours, inconsistent schedules, so, fluctuating schedules, access to alcohol, access to substances, and really workplace culture, I think all contribute. Burnout, stress, trauma, when you're people serving people, it can get a little hairy. It can get a little rough at times, especially, I think, post-pandemic, burnout, stress, challenges are really rampant in our industry and can be powerful triggers for substance use or relapse. For us, by becoming recovery-friendly workplace, we're working to really support employee well-being. Wellness is a topic we discuss a lot. We meet, monthly in an employee benefits committee, and a lot of it is surrounding, what kind of new initiatives can we bring in the wellness space. We support retention and engagement. We're working to reduce stigma, helping people feel safe asking for help, and really, sending the message that says you can thrive here. You can be successful with us. We see you, we support you, we're here for you. And then lastly, why do I think others should join this movement? Although we're in a little bit earlier of our stage, so I couldn't provide you formal ROI numbers, but creating a recovery-friendly workplace is beyond just the right thing to do. It's also smart business. On the next slide, I have just a few pieces of information, but people I've have done some training in this space as well to gain some of these certifications. We went through, for the state of Maine, a recovery friendly certification, and part of their training talks a lot about how, people in active recovery tend to be much more loyal. They tend to be much more productive. They miss less time. And so all of those things lead to higher retention and loyalty. According to Harvard Recovery Research Institute, fewer missed workdays, National Safety Council, and ultimately these things lead to reduced turnover, increased productivity, and ultimately also one thing we hope to collect eventually is, fewer healthcare costs as well. So there's definitely some benefit to the business as well, really trying to provide a safe space and create some loyalty. For us, it's a ripple effect. It's not just our business. It helps out in the community and families as well. And really, the hospitality industry, I think, in general, has the opportunity to lead with compassion and innovation in this space, where we can set a new standard for care and inclusion. So I think the message that I'd like to leave people with that are, wondering like where to start, you don't need to have the plan all laid out to just take the first step. For us, somebody just started the conversation with us and we let it go, we explored it. We were open to exploring what it looked like. And, one step was introducing Sobran. The next step was communications to the team members. And really just small steps like offering resources. There's tons of free resources out there, targeting in your space, in your communities, what are available, maybe making that information available on an intranet site for you folks. But just something to get the conversation started can lead to a big cultural shift. You don't have to have the path completely drawn out to just take the first step. So hopefully this has been helpful in answering kind of what we're doing, particularly in this hospitality space.
Thank you so much, Abby. I know that we have questions already, but we will hold those for the end. In the meantime, I would love to introduce Daniel Ginivan, and he can talk about Eliot CHS.
Afternoon, everybody. My name's Danny Ginivan. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and for me, that means I haven't had a drink or a drug in coming up on 19 years in July. And I always try to do that whenever I speak publicly because it's important to break the stigma and whatnot, and that's what we're talking about in terms of recovery-friendly workplaces and whatnot, and not stigmatizing having addiction or whatnot. So at Eliot, I oversee I'm in a new role, newly created role where I oversee our lived experience members and whatnot and staff, where from an agency-wide perspective. So for Eliot, we are a mental health organization that's statewide, that we have outpatient clinics, we have various programs that we work with the state on and we serve about 50,000 individuals or families on a yearly basis. In a lot of different capacities, whether it be people experiencing homelessness. We have the contract for that for the state of Massachusetts. So we're based out of Lexington, Massachusetts, but we're a statewide organization. That's a nonprofit that works with individuals to help support them in all aspects of their recovery and mental health struggles. So I've been tasked with continuing to grow our peer specialist recovery coaches and family partners. And one of the things when I got into this role was wanting to support our staff that are actively using their lived experience to help others in their journey to find recovery. So that's sort of how I initially found this recovery friendly workplace certification, and it really interests me to, in a way, to grow and build on what we already have with our recovery coaches and peer specialists internally, to offer that to our other staff. We have about 2,000 other staff. We only have 50 or 60 that are very open and candid about their own personal recovery, but we have a lot more individuals that are working in different roles. That some of the supports that we have in place, I wanted to kind of use this as a jumping off point to look at what our policies are internally as an organization to help support and promote recovery. So for me, this was a way to get my foot in the door organizationally of looking at what we're doing to support recovery in all aspects of employment. So you know, I'm newly in this role within the first year. I was also on paternity leave. So, you know, we're just getting started on this and looking at different ways we can impact the workforce to continue to help them and help individuals who are struggling. And that can be very difficult when you're trying to, you know, use your own lived experience, but might be struggling with your own addiction issues. So, we've tried to kind of look at different ways we can support that. And for all our lived experience roles, we have an individual who is also in recovery that provides individual supervision for them. So they get 1 hour a week of one-on-one support for someone else who's also in a leadership position that's in recovery themselves. So they have that support for someone who they can talk to that gets where they're coming from or gets what they're struggling with, or just, you know, another person in recovery that they're working with, because sometimes they might be the only person on their 15-person team that's in recovery themselves. So they feel like they're on an island. So what our goal is to, you know, support the individuals that are in recovery to not be on an island as much. And that's what we've been focusing on there with trying to provide that additional support. So, and then in terms of my role specifically, I'm involved at an agency level of developing our programs to make sure they're recovery oriented and making sure that recovery is at the forefront of what we're doing in all our programming. And I'm trying to think. The other big thing that I'm really I want to highlight, and I'm excited that that I've been able to start doing, is we have a Recovery Day celebration. That's probably been my favorite day now of the year, and where we have, you know, we're unique that we help a lot of individuals, like we help them find recovery themselves. So we're you know, as a workplace, we hire people that are in recovery, but we're also helping promote recovery as an organization in a human services aspect. So for us, that day is a way for our coaches to see all the work they're doing and hear the impact that they're making using their own recovery and celebrating. So they're able to sort of celebrate their own recovery and work by hearing the people that they're working with talk about how Eliot's helped them in their recovery. And for me, it was amazing to hear people's journeys and hear the clients' journeys of what recovery looks like for them and how we've been able to help them and highlight the work that we support in recovery. And we have, it's continuing to grow. It was standing room only last year. We're probably going to have 250 to 500 people at our next one. And for me, it's really a jumping off point to making sure culturally and organizationally we're really focused on recovery friendly supports for our staff and our clients. And it's when staff are hearing those things, they're much more apt to understand it and not using negative language when talking about clients. And you know the stereotypical, like someone's a junkie or whatnot. We're very proactive about addressing those things, and I can say that that's not language our staff uses, and when referring to people who are struggling, and it's important to have staff that understand why that is, and that's where our staff come in and like using proper language to refer to someone struggling with addiction or someone who's still using drugs and whatnot, and having a very harm reduction friendly approach. Another piece is I do a 1 hour recovery training, recovery 101. I talk about recovery. It's at the forefront of all our new staff orientation. Everybody gets an hour where they get to listen to me talk about recovery and answer their questions and have uncomfortable conversations of why it's important to have access to clean needles when somebody might be using and whatnot, and having those sometimes uncomfortable conversations about harm reduction and not considering it enabling and whatnot. And really at the start of any employee's journey at Eliot, they understand how recovery focused we are on this. And I think that's really it that I wanted to highlight, other than I'm excited that in my new role, I'm able to come up with these interesting and just different things where we're able to look at different overdose responses and utilize people's lived experience in a positive way to help create career ladders. Like, I'm in a role where I'm in a room full of directors with a lot of degrees and whatnot, and I have my high school diploma, and my voice is heard just as much as the person next to me, whatnot. And we're looking at how to translate people's lived experience and their recovery into a career ladder for things, and looking at different ways to help individuals who are in recovery grow in their professional development, not in the stereotypical clinical aspects of like, how do we help people who are in recovery grow and have a career versus just a job. So those are the kind of things that I'm focused on over the next year and making sure we're doing that. So we're good there.
Thank you, Danny. It was great to hear from you. I remember reviewing your application and loved that there was a specific role to integrate lived experience in your organization. So thank you for sharing that. And up next, we have Domenica Personti from Impact Life, who will talk about what their organization does.
Hello, everyone. First off, I'm grateful to be here, and I'm so excited that there's so many people attending. So this is huge, and it's just great to see this many people interested in this. It's very invigorating. So my name is Domenica Personti. I'm a person in long-term recovery, also the CEO and founder of Impact Life. So Impact Life operates services, all throughout the state of Delaware, and a little bit into Maryland. So in 2 counties in Maryland, we have some small outreach contracts. Part of our goal is expansion across the Mid-Atlantic over the next few years. So we operate recovery residences that are NAR and FSAR certified throughout Delaware. We have 16 different residences. And in addition to that, we have multiple programs. So we operate 17 different programs. So we have harm reduction programs, workforce development, peer support. We have adolescent programs, school-based programs. And then we have some programs that are very specific to pregnant and parenting women as well. In November of 2022, we launched Delaware's very first recovery farm. That is called the Sanctuary at Impact Life Farm. It's a residential treatment program that offers case management, peer support, and animal-assisted therapy. There's also a therapeutic ag component to it. So it is a fully operational, fully functional recovery farm. So lots of animals and lots of work. Yeah, so anytime I present anywhere, this is everyone's favorite part of our presentation. So we always include the animals. So we have cows, we have alpacas, we have pigs, chickens, we have goats, and they are the fainting goats, so everyone gets a kick out of them. And we recently introduced a little donkey who's not on our little slide deck yet, but his name is Cheddar Jack Prince, and he's amazing. And we have a little duck that we just rescued and is at the farm. Most of these animals are rescues, or they are animals that aged out of wherever they were. So we bring them to the farm so they can relax and have a happy retirement. So, we started this process around recovery-friendly workplaces about 18 months ago. We recognize that as a nonprofit that serves individuals who struggle with addiction, who are in active addiction, and then also people in recovery, that we need to ensure that our staff are serving and supported in a way that will allow them to do their job and, be able to serve the most vulnerable populations in the state. So we have 62 staff and 89% of them are in substance use recovery. So we believe that creates a culture rooted in lived experience, empathy, and hope. Our organization we're very vocal and grounded in 3 tenets. Everything we do is based off compassion, connection, and kinship. So, we're very picky about the people that we hire. We put them through, a rigorous onboarding process, because for us, it's really important that if they're serving vulnerable populations, that they're able to do so in a way that, they're serving with dignity and respect and treating people, like they're humans, right? And so we're very careful about who we hire. And then we do a lot of training. And so part of what was very attractive to us about the recovery friendly workplace was that it was going to allow us to create policies and procedures and weave that culture and the policies and procedures through everything that we do. My chief operations and compliance officer, his name is Brian Dietz, and he really took this initiative on full force. And we're very committed to it, and we're committed to doing it in a way that is in theory and practice, right? Not because it sounds good or because it's a trend or the thing to do, but to make sure that like we are who we say we are, right? And if we say that we are this organization and company that supports people in recovery, then we need to do that in every facet of, right? So we do that in a lot of different ways. So we have a very strong alumni network of former residents and clients who have successfully graduated our programs, and they often return to mentor, volunteer, and support others. We hire them to then work in our programs. Because recovery is the foundation of everything that we're built on, our policies, procedures, practices, and philosophies are all very intentionally designed to support and sustain people in recovery. We have demonstrated that not only hiring people, so not just the value of hiring people in recovery, but also the practical tools and support systems that make it successful. So for us, if someone does have a relapse, that isn't where their journey with us ends. We have staff that will work with them to get them into whatever level of care they are interested in going to, whatever they're willing to do. We have a second chance program that is on paper that they're all made aware of from the time of onboarding. When they return after any type of treatment, they get a mentor in the company that they choose. So someone that they get to pick that becomes their advocate in the company and can be a part of any meetings, any interactions, any plan that is in place for them. So from hiring to our leadership and development, we prioritize peer-led approaches, flexible support systems, and second chance opportunities. So not just as a value, but as a standard. So if we have somebody that comes to us and says, listen, I'm really struggling and I need to make meetings every day. I need to do a 90 and 90. I need to be, we'll work that into their workday as paid time so that they're able to do that. We also strongly encourage service. So our employees get 40 hours of paid time to be able to volunteer and do service work anywhere that they choose every year annually. So it's a full week because we believe that service is a large part of recovery and giving back. It's a strong philosophy, and most of the programs that a lot of us are a part of. We also have very strong partnerships across the Mid-Atlantic with small and large employers who are interested in creating inclusive and supportive workplaces for individuals in recovery. So for us, we do a lot of training. So we'll have organizations that'll reach out and say, listen, we have, 10 people in recovery that work in our organization. How can we support and serve them better? So we'll go in and we'll do training. We do a lot of like symptom identification training and mental health first aid. And we also use, we will offer those opportunities to train and present to our staff in recovery as well. So when we have the opportunity to speak and do things like that, we'll offer those up. So it's not just our leadership all the time doing those trainings or interacting with people. Our staff have a lot of opportunity throughout the state to be on panels and to really be at the forefront of what this can look like. So, for us, it's, we have a lot of residents and clients that graduate our programs. And when they go out and work for other employers, we want them to feel as supported as they were when they were in our programs, when they're working for employers. So for us, that's a big part that drove us to be a part of this initiative, was like, how can we continue to support our people once they graduate our programs? And for us, that's training other employers on how to continue to support them, because their needs are different in some ways than other individuals. So for us, we like to say this isn't an initiative, it's our identity. With that large population of people in recovery, it lends itself to, us having to have these systems and supports in place, and to make sure we're doing it in a meaningful way, right? And also to make sure that they know what is available to them. So, we brought an EAP program on in the past year. So, we offer that to them as well. So, they can seek guidance and service and support outside of like our traditional HR people operations department. We talk about Impact being a recovery friendly workplace through our social media outlets, on our website. Also, as part of our onboarding, we have recovery events every month that we welcome anyone in recovery to, but our staff are usually about 50% of the people that attend. We have something called SOBAR, that's Sober Dry Bar networking events once a month, and we have 5 recovery community centers. One of them is a recovery cafe. So we host that SOBAR event once a month as a dry happy hour, and it's for the larger community. We celebrate recovery anniversaries once a month on our staff meetings for people who are comfortable sharing that information. But it's part of our agenda, right? Is like, now we're going to identify and recognize anyone who's celebrating a recovery anniversary. And that could be 1 month or 7 days to 24 hours, up to however long, they are in recovery. So this has led to higher retention, which is great. There is a loyalty component to this. We have people that have been with us since we opened. Our company started during COVID, right after COVID, with a small CARES grant in 2021. So we do have longevity. And I think too, this field our field of behavioral health lends itself to high trauma. Our staff have had two losses, 2 fatalities just this week. 1 partner colleague and 1 client. And that's very typical in our industry, right? So to have that high level of trauma and the rates of compassion fatigue and vicarious trauma, it's important for us to support all of our staff, but also in particular our staff that are in recovery with very specific, and targeted interventions and prevention, to help them. So, a lot of that external training that we do really is about educating people on the needs of people in active addiction and who relapse and who are in recovery. And, those needs are ongoing, right? It's not, I think a lot of people think, somebody goes to detox and residential and they get out after 30 days or 45 days if they're lucky. And a lot of people think they're healed and cured and don't understand why they still struggle. So it's part of our job to educate them on why that is and why the support is so important. So I think that is about it. I added our contacts. One of the best things that you could do, in particular on a day when you feel not great, is go to impactlife.org and click our farm cam and watch our animals, because that's the thing I like to do on down days. But all of our information is on there. Anyone can reach out at any point. We are right now working with anyone who's interested to just educate them around recovery-friendly workplaces. We just started a partnership with Delaware Restaurant Association, which we're very excited about and proud of. Our goal is to tell anyone who's got an ear and is willing to listen how important this is, and then do whatever we can to support them in getting the certification as well. So feel free to reach out at any point, and we respond within 12 to 24 hours to all of our inquiries, so we'll get back quickly. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our panelists for sharing their experiences as recovery-friendly workplaces. Now I want to ask a few of the questions that came up several times with some audience members in the registration form, and that is, what were some of your biggest challenges versus your biggest motivations for becoming a certified recovery-friendly workplace?
I'm going to talk a little quickly on that. I think for us, when you have 1,800 plus employees, buy-in is a big factor. There's obviously a lot of issues that our team member base might experience. So trying to land on one that will have a particular impact is always challenging. And something that I got a little bit of feedback on. I think there's a tremendous amount of stigma that surrounds substance use in people that are in either active recovery or active use. So there's some components, I think, on the HR side of, well, does this mean we have to allow somebody to come in, intoxicated to work and can't do anything? And what does this mean for how we, manage our progressive discipline policies within the company? So some of that is really breaking down what it means, just getting some awareness and surroundings or awareness to what we're actually trying to accomplish. But that's buy-in is definitely something that is challenging, particularly when there exists so much stigma surrounding the topic. As far as motivators, though, I think our job is to provide our leaders resources in ways that they can better impact and lead their teams. And so trying to provide them resources to be, present a more caring, inclusive, and sustainable front for us is important. Just making sure that they have, if we're asking them to do this, making sure that they have the tools to be able to do it successfully is really a huge motivation. And leaning into that, where can we lean into that value of concern for others and helping? So that's a huge motivation for us.
Eliza, I'd just like to add that in talking to some of the our Fortune 500 companies, some of our big associations, some of the other companies that aren't necessarily in the business of delivering recovery services and being supportive, there was a lot of misinformation. Like, here's a list of all the people who got certified by us in our first round. And one of the things that they told us over and over again was, number one, how do they tie it to mental health? And how much is it going to cost? There's a lot of fear about the potential cost, just financial cost, to step into this whole area. And I think one of the things that's been great about our certification process that we've heard back from the companies that went through it is when they actually saw the certification and what they had to do, as long as they already had benefits programs that covered treatment for people who needed critical care, it was not an expensive venture. That so much of this is culture. And I thank all of the panelists for bringing this up, because you all mentioned it, and that change in culture doesn't cost money, but it yields incredible results by just using education and policies that are reflective, that are humane and supportive. So I think that was something that we learned through the certification process, that there was angst. And I think many of you might have been on our last month's seminar where Forrest Marsh presented their research with HRCI on where we are with people in HR. As people in HR become more educated and more familiar and are more destigmatized around substance use disorder, hopefully that'll also increase people's ability to say, this is the pluses are way more than the fear of what might happen or what it might cost.
Thanks, Kathy. Danny, I think I saw you come off mute for the biggest challenges versus motivations.
Yeah, for me, some of the bigger challenges were, we have, management as employees, and we also have, entry level staff, and we have to navigate dealing with a union as well. So, just making sure we were able to figure out what things, policies and whatnot, align and aren't gonna make things very difficult, but just looking at how to navigate working on multiple different sides of the fence to support individuals in recovery, whether they be union or non-union, just making sure that, people's rights are, respected, and looking at whether we needed to have outside supports versus internal supports because of those differences and whatnot. And just for me, what this really did was allow for the conversation to happen at a leadership level to look at different things that we can do for our staff. And then to look at what we're going to prioritize for the next year from that. So for me, it was a way for us organizationally look internally at like what our policies are and whatnot, and be more introspective of things that we are doing, what we were already doing, and like forgot that, oh, hey, we do a lot of this stuff already, and recognize it, and like where we're missing the mark as well and what's missing from it, and then like building on that.
Thank you, Danny. Another question that came up a few times is, has there been any reaction from either leadership or employees about recovery friendly once you've announced that you're doing this, you're starting to implement these things?
I'll just say for us, but I'll be the easy one. I mean, we're a recovery organization, right? So they were excited, and I think they feel valued. And I think that they now see that like this is an investment that we've made in us and the company and them. So that was kind of easy for us. But in the people that we've talked to about it, I'll tell you, as much as I was expecting some of that like pushback, we haven't seen it, even with the large employers. I really do think this is one of those things that anyone can get behind, because why wouldn't you want to support people, who are in recovery? And also there's so much benefit, and Abigail nailed it when she kind of went through like their outcomes and like retention and things like that, the loyalty from the individuals. Who wouldn't want that in their organization or their company, right? So we haven't experienced any of it either way, internally or with the companies that we've spoken to and shared about. So
I took the time. We send out a lot of communications to our team member base through a platform that allows us to reach all of our employees. And so I just took the time to go back through a few that have come back, just wrote down a few quotes from them to share. These are largely from our hourly team member base, but a couple of leaders in there too. But somebody had written when we announced about the national certification, personally and professionally, this makes me beam with pride and gratitude. Very proud of you guys. In response to our VP's email, thank you, Greg. This Sunday, God willing, I'll have 15 months. So it touched, with somebody that was in active recovery. This is incredible. Thank you for sharing. I'm looking forward to the group. One of my favorite ones, I'm posting this on my social media, feeling proud and supported by the company I work hard for and value. Thanks so much for this validation. And somebody else just said recently that they were really loving the Facebook group and that they appreciated us sharing that opportunity. So that's just a couple of direct quotes from our team member base.
That's fantastic. And I always point to recovery friendly as being something that you want to train your employees well enough that they can leave you, but treat them well enough that they don't want to. So I think that by fostering recovery friendly workplaces, it's clear you're all talking about loyalty and retention and avoiding those costs associated with turnover. Those are definitely benefits to both the business and the people that you serve and are working for and with. That just shows the efficacy of this program. So one thing that people were interested in knowing before I open it up to live questions in our last few minutes is if you felt any impacts from the administration.
We're braced for it. So we're braced for it. And to be honest, we just hired, we had a fundraiser for 15 hours a week, and we made the decision last week to go ahead and bring her on full time. Luckily we were able to do that and in position to do that. We haven't felt any of the impacts yet, but we are braced for it because we know that they're coming. And I think to be proactive in particular about this as well, like part of what we're doing now is to use our government relations partners to start having these conversations at the state level to make sure that things like this are prioritized. And the only other thing I'll say, and I love that someone even asked, opioid abatement dollars and settlement dollars are ideal for things like this, right? Things that support people in active addiction getting well and then staying well. So I just throw that out there to say that, like, if that's an opportunity in your state, this is like the ideal program for it. So yes.
I definitely want to give the audience an opportunity to ask questions. I did see that Monica MC has their hand raised, so giving them the opportunity to speak and ask their question live if they'd like to.
Hello, Monica. I'm in long-term recovery for 31 years. I didn't know I raised my hand, but I want to thank all of you for how you support the employees and different programs. And I'll tell you, I work for Impact Life, and I never ever worked for such a supportive company. I love it here. I love what I do. I have a passion for recovery and helping others. And this company makes it easy. So I work in the housing program for the men, the 3.1 program. And I'm telling you, I want to thank, our CEO for making this possible and all the leadership team. And you're all positive example. Thank you for your time here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Domenica, I think it just really speaks to the support of your organization. They feel supported and they come to support you.
Thank you. Thanks,
next
Monica.
hand I see raised is Steve Gothier.
Yes, hi. My name's Steve Gothier from Salem, New Hampshire, New England, Boston region now. It's no longer Region 1. They've changed it a little bit. But the fact being is I've been around manufacturing industry for over 45 years, retired in 2017, and been deeply involved with recovery programs. In 2019, we launched recovery up here in New Hampshire with the governor and Sununu. And we had a recovery-friendly workplace there, as well as supporting the suicide prevention organization. And as this group, both groups, continue to spread across the country, it's one of the first times anything like this has occurred, and it's being able to be sustained. There's been some programs that haven't been able to be sustained. As you might say, some of the things we jump out, we don't look at that. And it's called grandiose, and sometimes, we go way beyond our means and not able to maintain it. But this has been just so important. As you said, this is an investment for companies. It is not an expense, and to realize that is the return on the dollar. And they want to see that because, finance only sees black and red. That's it. So, for an individual that's been an employee for 20 years or so, perhaps even over or less, they're well skilled, well educated, and they can perform their jobs beyond the newcomer. So I want to keep that person around because if in fact, if Daniel was to leave me, right, I've got to go find another Daniel. I got to hire him. I got to train him. It's just, it's the return on investment is just beyond everything, and it's amazing. And as many of you know that you're in recovery and things like that, and this goes far beyond the individual, just so far beyond. But it's been a real pleasure listening in on here today, and we OSHA and the OSHA roundtable that we have up here every Wednesday morning, and we're going into our 5th year, and working with Shannon and everybody up here, and yes, it's been fantastic, and I hope it continues, and we're going to continue to promote. We'll be having some events up here very shortly with a recovery-friendly workplace, and this is the American Federation for Suicide Prevention, and we have an individual in Washington. His first name's Tim, and he's in the construction industry, and he's signed on with the alliances that we signed with the Federation, and as well as recovery there in 2019. So we'll be signing that again. And what's coming up for us is going to be another opportunity to offer help. The compliance issues for many, many employers, they're all worried and thinking about those things, but we'd like to see this rolled into your medical programs and companies. It's a big, big deal for companies to reflect this activity within their safety management systems. And if the bad is to happen, something, injury, fatality, regardless of the alcohol, but when they come in to inspect, we're sure to have that part of our safety management systems. And I'll tell you, as a special government employee, it'll go beyond what you can imagine. So
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Steve. From coming from New Hampshire, I know that you've been an important partner with the OSHA roundtables, and I wanted to flag that one of our certified companies is Associated Builders and Contractors, who has chapters across the country. So we're really grateful to have highly impacted industries represented. And I think we have time for.
Actually, Eliza, I'm going to interrupt
Yeah.
just for a second because we've got a couple announcements. I just want to make sure that there's 2 things that I want to say to you all before we close, and that is there was a couple of questions that were very specific, and I will connect you. Abigail, there were a couple of questions that I thought would be around how you are able to finance Soberanth, and also some questions around tips and the sort of the industry of service. So we'll do that. I want to let anybody, we'd love to hear if any of you are going to be at the RX Summit. We were able to get the RX Summit to do a plenary session that is focused on the recovery-friendly workplace. And so Oracle and Thermocool will be presenting there, as well as the research from Forest Marsh. And so we want to know if any of you are coming to the RX Summit. And then finally, I just want to say, this is a tough day for many of you. The cuts that came out last night and today are brutal. And it's really a hard time. We know we are feeling, here's how we're feeling. We're feeling grateful that so many people in the private sector are approaching us about certification and are not dependent on federal money. And so we'll be able to do this. This is a unique time to engage the private sector and private employers to help us expand the commitment that people have to people in recovery. But know that we are thinking about you. A lot of your questions are things that we're using to develop an agenda for a conference that we're going to plan to have later. Our position around what's happening with the administration right now is just trying to keep up with what's happening and be as knowledgeable as we can. We just don't know where everything's going. And we know a lot of you are under a lot of stress. And so we're thinking about you. And we're going to keep doing programs like this. So thank you, everybody who joined us today. And thank you to our panelists. Thank you for being so great and being leaders in the field and for all you do and all of you who joined us today. So thank you all.